The idea of doing the job is often can feel worse than doing the job. Sometimes it takes somebody, be that me to you at the time, sort of nudges you along.
Thanks so much for joining me today, Mandy, and being a part of this International Women's Day project. Just a bit of background to why I'm doing it. I've met and been inspired by some amazing female leaders along my journey, my career, who've given me the mentorship and the belief that I can do and be where I am today. You being one of them.
Thank you.
I know it was
really
really,
kind.
but it was really, you were one of the people that I really wanted to be a part of this, because you definitely pushed me on my journey, so I'm really grateful for that.
That's lovely to hear.
But yeah, and also just I think it's really important for the next generation, as a mum and a wife and a sister and a daughter, trying to juggle all these balls.
Yeah.
It's hard work,
but
it can be done, and I want to tell the next generation that success is definitely achievable. Diversity is essential now in businesses. And we've just got to help each other along the way and ask for help and support each other. So yeah, that's something that's really important to me. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so Mandy Beech, so thank you for coming to Nationwide today. So I sit on Nationwide's executive committee. I think I have done now for 5 years. Worked at Nationwide for 15 years, and obviously we knew each other prior to that from Royal Bank of Scotland, where I worked there for 19 years. So I'd say my career has really been grounded in being directly connected to the customer. So frontline branches. So today I look after our branch network, our contact centres, our digital teams, and some of our operational teams. So it's probably 5,500 people in my team up and down the UK. So it is a privilege to get to do that.
Absolutely amazing. And just touching back on when we first met, I mean, it was back in RBS, back in the days. I mean, gosh, I can't do the maths how long it was ago, but it was a long time ago. I mean, I was 24 and I'm 42 this year, so
crazy.
There we go, which is madness. And I remember I was an area sales manager at the time. So I looked after the guys that were doing the mortgages and the loans.
That's right.
And I think I had a team of about 12. And I remember Macclesfield branch coming up, and you were my manager at the time, and you said, I think you should go for it. And I was like, oh no, I've never been a branch manager. I've never thought I'd want to be a branch manager. And you were like, no, I can see your potential. There's this comment. And it was a big branch, wasn't it?
It was classed as one of our large sites.
Yeah. So
it would have felt like quite a jump for you from the job you were doing to that.
100%. And I think that's why it was daunting. I remember going to Manchester, getting prepared for my interview, and I had an interview with you and Bev Ray, yes, at the time. And even going into them, our offices were huge, weren't they, compared to the little branches? But yeah, and I remember doing the job and just absolutely loving it. I mean, it was hard, but I absolutely loved it. And
I think there's just a realisation is sometimes you sort of grow into the job you're given, don't you?
Yeah.
And the idea of doing the job is often can feel worse than doing the job.
100%.
And I think sometimes it takes somebody, be that me to you at the time, or that will have happened to me during my career, that somebody sort of nudges you along to a role that you'd say, well, somebody else is going to be way better at that than me.
100%.
So you would have had that moment, and it's interesting that sort of stuck with you.
Yeah, it is. Well, when we picked up this week, I was like, Mandy, you were such an inspiration, and you were like, do you know what? At the time, like,
it would have just felt like the right thing to do for me.
Absolutely.
To see someone who's super capable. Why don't you just go and do it?
Yeah.
But it's really lovely to hear that sort of was a bit of a moment in your career that I played a part of, and 100%. At the time it felt tiny to me.
Yeah, and it's something, but I will never forget that, and I'm sure you have moments within your career that you will just things that you never forget, and you're so grateful for, aren't you?
Totally.
So yeah, brilliant. So I'm just going to go and ask you a few questions now. So looking back, did your career unfold as planned, or has it evolved more organically, would you say?
I think it's probably the latter, in that it probably has unfolded organically. But what I would say, and reflecting on sort of this question ahead of today, I am very competitive. Now, not with anybody else, but always with me.
Yeah.
So if you put me on a till in Tesco, I'd want to be the fastest cashier.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean? I want to, if I'm going to do something, do it the very, very best you can do. And I think that's born out of sort of work ethic, care for the company I work for, and just making sure I'm fulfilling my own potential. So I didn't set out to think when I get to Nationwide I want to be on the exec committee. It would be the best I can be in every single job I've done, and then 100%. by coincidence then you just get to progress through.
Yeah, and it comes with hard work, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's not just handed to you. You have to put in the graft to get there. So
I think sometimes you can convince yourself it's luck, but I do think you make your own luck. You know, sometimes it's timing and being in the right place at the right time. But when I think about, I had 3 children under 4. I think now, I look at, sometimes I'm out in a coffee shop and I see a family and I think, I couldn't even get a coffee, let alone go to work. And I wonder now how I did manage to do that.
Yeah.
But it's surprising what you do when, number one, you need the money. Number one, that, you know, nothing's getting cheaper.
Yeah.
And also it's a job you love.
Yeah.
And I feel, you know, I do think that I've probably been blessed in that I don't mind getting out of bed every day for a job that I love.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do feel that if you're that kind of person, it rubs off on people.
Yeah.
People see that so much, don't they? So, 100%. Which female leaders have inspired you, and how do they influence and shape your goals, would you say?
Well, I do think there's been a combination of female leaders where you think, I want to be like them, or indeed, I don't want to be like them. So 100%. I think it can be shaped in a couple of ways. And some of that was when I was really young. I had a dad who was very interested in politics, so therefore I got interested in politics. So I would often stare at Margaret Thatcher on TV and think, she's surrounded by men, but, you know, whether you agreed with her political views was kind of irrelevant, because what she did was cut from a very, very different cloth.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty inspiring, to be honest.
Yeah.
Then you've got your mum, in terms of, you know, the person that sort of shapes your values, your views, your beliefs. And then during your career, I think there will always be that individual where you think, you know, I like how I feel being led by them. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, sometimes it's stretch. And we mentioned Bev Ray. I mean, she was probably in the role where I was at an area management role and she was my regional director. Very challenging boss, but always sort of coming from a place of care.
Yes, 100%.
And was absolutely gutted when she moved on to a different role at the time.
Yeah.
So I remember her being very pivotal. Then as I've gone into Nationwide, I think I've had a number of leaders that have done exactly what, you know, you reminded me I did to you and sort of nudge you along. But actually they weren't all female. Some of them have been male leaders. So there was an opportunity here which was sort of a step up from the role that I was doing at the time. And somebody said, you apply for that role. And genuinely, I would have looked around and thought, well, why would I? Because he's better. Yeah. And it was the last day in terms of application, and I put my application in. And because I had nothing to lose, I think I had more of a sort of, I was just maybe no pressure to go and just do the job I could do in terms of interview. And then went on to get the interview. Now, if that individual hadn't said to me, go, you know, put an application in, because they'd sort of seen something in me that I didn't, then I definitely wouldn't have applied. And then I'd say today, the individual that inspires me most is our CEO, so Debbie Crosby.
Yeah.
Don't know if you know much of Debbie, but she strikes that amazing balance of EQ and IQ.
Yeah.
Where you've got an individual that can sort of sense the mood of a room, but equally is smart as a tack. And sometimes those two things are really a really tricky blend to strike, particularly at her level.
Definitely.
But an individual that can speak plain English in terms of make really complex stuff sound more straightforward, which is helpful for everybody, and cares deeply about customers.
Yeah.
So starts everything from the sort of perspective of what's in it for the customer. Well, that is inspiring to me, because that's the sort of stuff that gets me out of bed.
Definitely. And that is definitely something that me as you were my leader, that is, I know that you always cared about the customer 100%.
Totally.
That was always the forefront of your mind.
Yeah.
Along with obviously your staff.
Yeah.
But you knew your staff as well. You treat your staff each individually because you knew them as people, but also collectively as a room. If we needed to go in and get something done,
that's
again,
what we would
got
do.
The message. So 100%.
I think when you're in an organisation and you've got a team that those shared values and purposes are aligned, you're going to get some good stuff done. And that's the sort of this sweet spot of high performance for me. When you're all disjointed, that's when I think you've got a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Amazing. And what drives you each day? How do you stay motivated and within your role?
I think we've just talked about it. So being really clear what I'm getting out of bed for. I do enjoy clarity, purpose, sort of very clear expectation, but coming from a place of customer and colleague. I mean, I have, like I say, a massive team spread up and down the country. So what drives me is making sure that the person on the counter feels equally as important as one of my own team.
Definitely. So, and we've seen that this morning when you've walked into this branch.
Yeah, I care a lot about them and want to talk to them and just, I suppose, remove the hierarchy. So I'm driven very much by that, and also driven by brilliant service where people, from out, and someone said, I was in Nationwide, and I'll take a sharp intake of breath in the hope. But if it's brilliant, and if it's not, then I want to go and fix it.
Yeah.
But then on the flip to that, I am driven by just making sure that if I'm going to put in, a long day, a lot of hours, I'm driven from a family.
Yeah.
So I say 3 kids, they're not now, but, they don't get any cheaper. No. But I do like doing things as a family. So I'm very fortunate, and they still do want to do stuff with me and the dad. So, driven by nice holidays, nice meals, doing whatever we can together.
Yeah. 100%. And just on the back of what you just said is, I notice, like for example, on LinkedIn, you always take the time out to like and comment on people's posts. And honestly, that is so nice to see. So even though you're high up and within Nationwide, you just take that time out. And honestly, then people will think the world of that.
Well, it's interesting because I don't think anything of that. So that's me when I'm on a train or, 10 minutes here, there. So when somebody puts a post on to say, we're doing some brilliant charity work in a branch, then I just think, good for, like, how brilliant is that they care enough to go over and above. So recognition has to form a massive part for me.
100%.
And it's funny that I don't underestimate that, but I don't, your point around don't underestimate it, I think sometimes I can a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's just what I should do.
Yeah.
But I don't think about how much it means to them.
Oh, it really does. And, and it goes noticed, obviously.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, so I'm sure there's a lot more people have noticed that. It absolutely does go a long way.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you ever faced moments of self-doubt or imposter syndrome? We have touched on this. And how did you regain your confidence?
I think it would be naive of anyone to say you don't ever have these moments. So I think you're kidding yourself if you don't. And sometimes that's work, sometimes it's home, sometimes it's hormones. Yeah. Could be the combination of all three. Imposter syndrome is an interesting one because I still think that I'm probably still waiting for the tap to say there's another Mandy Beech waiting to, jump in. But also, I don't think imposter syndrome is always a bad thing, because what imposter syndrome does with me is drives me to appreciate and drives me to be grateful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Agree.
So I don't think I'm never complacent in that. I sort of, if you treat every day like, it could be the last one.
Yeah.
Then I just think you're going to put in the best day you can possibly have.
Yeah.
So I think imposter syndrome channeled in the right area is not a bad thing, but it's when it can be consuming that I would imagine it would be a really bad thing. So I just try to manage my own expectations, and my self-doubt often can come in the forms of questioning too much or overthinking.
Yeah.
I don't have loads of trouble sleeping and that, so I'm very blessed like that. But I know my own physical signs when I think something's creeping in here and it almost has to stop. So I think really tuning into your own body signs, whatever that might be. So mine would be, for example, maybe a mouth ulcer.
Yeah.
Is a sign that I may be tired or need to sort of, reset, if you like. And then when I get that, it's just understanding, well, what is it that's giving you that? And I genuinely do think just surround yourself with people that are going to sort of give you energy as opposed to draw energy.
Totally agree.
So who are your go-to people and what are they going to do just to sort of say, have a word with yourself because that's a shadow that is not really there, and go again.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? Just find an individual that's going to,
definitely
set you straight. Yeah. And sometimes that might be, that is a problem. Yeah. Go and sort it. Or actually that isn't a problem and you're seeing something that doesn't exist.
Definitely. And it's all about talking, isn't it?
Yeah.
And talking, because I don't hold it up and bottle it up inside.
No.
But on the back of the imposter syndrome, as you just said before about applying for that job, sometimes you just need that little push, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
You just need that person who knows you, who knows you're capable.
You do.
Because even if you're thinking, I'm not sure about this, people know you.
I know.
People push you
I
in
think
that direction.
I think as well, sometimes we sort of ask for feedback but don't like it.
Yes.
You know, we can all be guilty of wanting feedback, but only the good bits. I think it's really important to ask for feedback and genuinely see what other people see in you that might be a blind spot for you.
Definitely.
For you to go and fix, or choose not to.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I might have had feedback about, oh, it would be nice for you to show a little bit more teeth, or we don't ever see you get angry, which is actually then perceived that you don't get the same output.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can be reasonable, straightforward, and get the same output. So if you're asking me to be something I'm not, I can't be that person.
Totally agree.
It doesn't mean that inside at times I'm not thinking, you know, I feel cross or, you know, annoyed. But I wouldn't ever sort of find myself, well, I wouldn't, feeling like I have to take that out on an individual. I would be doing that professionally and properly.
That's the right thing to
you
do.
know, so I get an and. But then I have to accept that the feedback I might get might show up in a way that people expect me to be something.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I totally agree. And I totally agree with what you've just said about showing, like, you don't need to show that you're angry.
I know.
I mean, my husband Rob will say otherwise, but I'm very much cheerful and everything all day. And I think that's how you want to be perceived and to rub off on other people, because I think if you're in a good mood, it will put somebody else in a good mood if they're in a bad mood or something.
Well, I've been reading quite a bit about sort of leadership characteristics, and one of the things that most people value in their leader or leaders is predictability. So we've all worked for that individual where you think, wonder what mood they're in today.
Yeah.
And if it's a bad mood, it sets a tone. Well, I think just being predictable just allows people to feel much more relaxed, that sort of psychological safety. So I value that in others, and so I feel like that's something I need to do and be myself, if you like.
100%. Brilliant. Have you always felt supported by those around you, your friends, family and colleagues?
I pretty much say yes. I mean, in terms of friends, always supported. But if I'm really honest, we don't talk loads about work.
Yeah.
I think most people would know that I've got a pretty good job, and so have they. But if you know, they don't know, you know, Monday to Friday, most people haven't got a clue how busy my life is in terms of pack my bag, head off across the country, and then I'll see them at the weekend when everything's just back to normal.
Yeah.
So I think from a friend's point of view, then that's what makes a good friend, isn't it? And that you don't have to sort of explain.
Definitely.
Or feel like you're defined by your job.
100%.
Definitely not. Family, obviously, I would say they would say I'm exactly the same as when I was on the counter in Congleton branch.
Aww.
You know, and I think that's all right, because they are my family, and if I tried to be anything that I'm not, they'd be putting me
back in your place. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're still absolutely... I might be the boss at work, but I'm definitely not the boss with my family. And then colleague-wise, I think I feel really lucky in that I work with great people who are shared values as me. I mean, there would have been times where it would feel less supported, but it doesn't mean not supported.
Yeah.
At the minute, I feel like the team I work in is probably one of the highest performing teams I've ever worked in. So it allows me to do things like this, safe in the knowledge that we're all sort of, you know, gathering around the same outcomes, and we crack on together. Definitely. So it's lovely.
Yeah, brilliant. And I love how your friends and family, obviously I know a bit about that, and you were all so close.
We're really close.
I think that is so important, because I have got that network myself. I mean, I've still friends with some people from my friends 5 years old when we went to primary school, which is amazing, isn't it?
I mean, I feel like, you know, what my job allows me to do is treat my family, do nice things with my family, in a way that, you know, I may not have been able to do before. You know, I am from a council flat background, so I never thought back then, if you'd have asked my 4 or 5 year old self, even 14-year-old self, would it be where I am today? It would be absolutely not. It was get a job would be the priority, not get up the career ladder. So I'm able now to treat my family to things that they would never be able to dream of. So I feel really blessed in that respect.
And do you sit back and just have a pinch me moment sometimes?
Well, I remember when I took my kids to show them the flat that I grew up in, and I said, it's there, that one there, and they were like, all this. I went, no, that that window, you know, they couldn't understand, like, well, what did you do for a barbecue? A barbecue. I didn't have a barbecue. So that sort of reality check isn't a bad thing. And when I'm walking the dog, sometimes I walk past that flat just to remind myself, you know, that that's where it started, and I think that's all right. You know, that is okay. But I think that's what grounds me in a reality that you know, people from all backgrounds, and it takes all shapes and sizes, can go on and do great things.
Oh, yeah, and that's such a lovely story.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Having family, friends, and being a leader, how do you balance your personal life and business life?
Yeah, this is a tough question about balance, because do you balance, or actually do you just find a way to make it work? And I think it's probably that, because if people think that, you know, there comes a time where you can just shut your laptop off and we're done. Well, it doesn't work like that, because customers contact you at times, or the contact centre might have a problem or whatever. So I'm going to be there as often as I need to be there. And I'm all right with that. But I do respect that isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, I'm definitely more all in from a work perspective. Having said all that, I do respect that when we're on holidays, I will do my absolute utmost then just to sort of, you know, reset with the family. That's really important. Or maybe, you know, round the dinner table, you know, that sort of thing. I'm all right with that. But generally, I'd say I've just tried to find a way to mix work and home and try my best to make that work. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
When the kids were much younger, I think that was harder. I remember one time they were playing, so they would probably be like maybe 6, 5 and 3, and they said, let's play banks. And then it says, when I worked at Royal Bank of Scotland, I heard one of them say, ring down Twitch and see how many current accounts they've done. I mean, this would have been like 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you start to think, oh, this is rubbing off. It's rubbing off on them.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how you think that you found a balance, but actually they're observing all the time.
Yeah. But I suppose each week's different as well.
Yeah,
so each week might be different than the next, and you just have to kind of go with it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And you know, that's totally right. And some weeks I'm away for the week, and some weeks I might be away for one night.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think this point of communication has been really key. So I'm very organised at the weekend, get the house straight, and then we crack on with the week. But talking to my husband and saying, when I'm applying for these jobs, the reality of getting this job is this.
Yeah.
Are we up for that or not?
Yeah.
And if we're not, then I'll stay doing what I'm doing. If we are, then this is what it's going to look like.
That.
So, you know, I think if everybody thinks you can sort of progress up the ladder and everything stays, it actually doesn't, because there's compromise all over the place.
Definitely.
And I have missed quite a lot of school parents' evenings and so on, because I just haven't been there. So when we had COVID and then they started to do more online, it was like a blessing, because then it meant that we'd sort of been able to do more on Zoom and so on as a BAU. I don't know if they still do that now, by the way.
They do. Well, the primary school certainly does. Yeah.
Well, then it sort of it gave me an opportunity just to be more present when I was never able to.
Absolutely.
before.
And that goes through a lot of people as well.
It does.
A lot of, like, some people can attend everything. And
Yeah.
some working mums or
Can't.
dads can't,
I know.
can they? So it is, and it's great to actually see that the schools have adapted that
100%.
now. So yeah, definitely. How do you manage stress and avoid burnout whilst maintaining resilience within the career, would you say?
I think everyone has the sort of own coping mechanisms, don't they, depending upon what's happening at a certain time. And I think I talked a little bit earlier about recognising physical signs are often, you know, recognising things that you don't normally experience. It's just to hold on, what's actually happening here? And I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying that they were working on a particular piece of work, and it did mean they were working into the evening, put the daughter to bed, carry on, and she was getting quite a tight chest.
Right.
Not severe enough to say, but it was just a sign. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because she said to me, and I recognised that as this work is becoming a little bit consuming. And I thought, oh, that's interesting that, and she's very, you know, really open to say that, which then allowed me to say, can I help with any of that? So I think recognising those physical signs maybe you're waking up a little bit earlier, something may be on your mind. I'd said earlier, I have migraines, and I've suffered from migraines forever.
Yeah.
So for a long time, and they were getting really bad maybe 18 months ago, but they were getting bad at the weekend. So what the doctor was explaining to me is you're just operating on adrenaline, and then there's a release come the weekend, and then the migraine starts. I'd never really put two and two together.
No.
So I'm on a preventative for that now because they are debilitating. And so what was happening was I was busy all week, then getting a migraine at the weekend.
Oh, and then not do much at the weekend.
And then you couldn't do anything at the weekend. So trying to understand your own physical signs, I do think is important. Some people it's the gym, or for me it's just, making sure fresh air, walking.
Yeah.
That sort of decompression time I think is really key.
Yeah.
But I did the London Marathon a few years ago.
Amazing.
That was such a brilliant sort of, because again it was a target, and I love a target and love something to
And are you
point
a runner?
towards.
Or
I
no?
was not a runner. So that email sat in my inbox. It was running from Macmillan, which is a charity that's close to my heart. But the email to say, would you like to do it on behalf of Nationwide from Macmillan? I thought, if I say yes to this, now it's not even like number one, I'd done a couple of 10Ks and stuff. But when you say...
A couple of 10Ks, I'm like...
Well, it was... So in the end I said, go on, I'll do it. And it was the best thing, to from an achievement point of view. I felt like I'd won a gold medal at the Olympics. And it wouldn't have mattered if it had taken me 24 hours to do. It was just the doing it.
The doing it, absolutely.
Yeah, it was doing it.
And just having all that support and people around. I bet that's like...
amazing. And what was lovely was everyone leaning into the... I must have raised £15,000 or £16,000.
Wow.
And the run up to it, as if it wasn't bad enough training, I was also needing to raise money. But my mum was amazing. Like, everybody just wanted it to be a success.
Yeah.
So it was fab. It was fab.
That's
but I think this kind of idea of just be really clear that nobody's going to be at the best if you're shattered and you look tired. If I turned up for work and I just wasn't on my A game, that point you said earlier, it just rubs off.
It does.
And people worry about you. Are you all right? And, I just feel like sort of investing in yourself is not something to apologise for.
I totally agree, Totally agree. Amazing. I'd love to be able to run a marathon.
It was amazing.
I
I just felt like, I'd always said I wanted to do one by the time I was 40, but I had to reset that to 50. So I think I was 48 when I did it.
Amazing.
But you are running with people who have got severe disabilities still managing to do it. So it's a very humbling experience when you see that, where what drives people to do a marathon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What are the most important lessons you've learned throughout your career, would you say?
I think this idea of continuously learning is really important. So I think sometimes you think you can land on a job and we're done here. You're absolutely not, because who would have thought that we'd be talking about sort of the scale of automation this time, even 3, 4, 5 years ago, to where we are today. So always investing in learning. Nationwide offered me the opportunity to do a master's. So I didn't go to university. So I joined Royal Bank of Scotland at 18. And then I get to 38 and there was an opportunity for a couple of people to go to Bath University. Well, from where I live here in the north to Bath, that is not round the corner. But it was an MBA, so a Masters of Business Administration, run over 2 years. And again, I've got these 3 young kids at the time, because this was 10 years ago. And I absolutely sort of wholeheartedly put myself into that.
Oh, wow.
But I was with vets, folks that had been in the army, doctors, and then little old me. And I remember thinking, this is like, if you think about out of your comfort zone moments,
that is one of them.
That was one of them. But it was interesting how some modules I needed to draw on them, maybe when it was all the statistics and the Excel, but then on other modules they would draw from me, maybe around the people management and so on. And then getting my masters and getting the cap and gown on, My mum and dad being there. I mean, it was many years overdue, don't get me wrong, but it was just amazing. So I think what I mean is sometimes it's much easier to say no to stuff.
Yeah.
And it is, and that's all right. But then saying yes can sometimes be the best thing that you'll ever do. And there was just this point for me, is I was the first person at that time in our family to have done a master's. Maybe still am. But the role model you provide for your children, that was really key.
Yeah.
I've got 2 older sons and a daughter. I wanted them to see that sort of anything is possible, but you do have to work hard for
100%.
it.
And you have to go out your comfort zone. Like, I say this time and time again, but people say you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
You do. And
yourself.
It's not an easy thing to do, because we like just sort of that sense of normality, don't we? And I landed on that campus in Bath, and I had to leave on a Sunday, stay all week until the Friday, come home, and then of course you've got an assignment to write, you've got revision to do for exams. It was tough.
Yeah.
It was
and how
really
long
tough.
did you? So it was over 2 years, but how long did you when did you have to go down to Bath?
Every quarter.
Every quarter.
Yeah. And then I remember not taking any Christmas holidays, actually coming in here to this branch to do revision over Christmas.
Wow.
So I remember the sacrifices, and I didn't take the boys to football because I needed to be doing my assignment.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting time when I reflect back. But you know, you do it, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Incredible. Absolutely brilliant. How do you define success, both personally and professionally, would you say?
I suppose just that sense of, do I feel fulfilled?
Yeah.
I don't think I define it by a number or a salary amount or a title, but just that idea that, do I feel like I'm sort of able to operate at my best, or have I got a bit more in the tank?
Yeah.
So I've obviously been looking after the branch network and so on for a number of years. So the what next for me was, well, actually, could it be doing something else in terms of more for society or more for my own development? So I've just taken on a non-exec directorship role with Student Loan Company, which is, another out of my comfort zone moment, be that applying for these roles, being interviewed for these roles, choosing the right organisation that aligns with values, and then fitting it in and amongst your day job.
Yeah.
So I would define it as, there must be points in your career where you feel like, okay, what is next for me, be that on a personal level or to support you professionally. And I know I'll be better at my day job by doing this non-exec role, because it's asking questions that I thought, that's interesting, should be thoughtful about that.
Yes.
Or, how the two complement each other.
100% agree with that.
And then you will have had points in your career where you've totally respected your boss and the job they do, but also thought, I think I could maybe do that. And does that spur you on a little bit?
Yeah.
So feeling like you are at your best for more of the time, I think, is how I would define it.
Yeah, definitely.
And somebody talked to me one time about the minute you're not swinging your legs out of bed to get up every day. Don't get me wrong, we're not all high-fiving each other the minute the alarm goes off. But I don't get many times where I think, I'm not looking forward to today. I can't even think of the last time I did.
Yeah.
So I'm defining success by just sort of job satisfaction, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. It really does make sense. Brilliant. I mean, I just look at you, man, and think, how does she fit it all in? Like, it's amazing. But also, like, honestly, you come across like you're just doing it so calmly and professionally and everything. So it's so nice to hear the background of it all and how you feel.
Yeah, and I think that probably most people would say, if you ask me at home, I sort of leave my brain at the door and allow everybody else to make the decisions.
Yeah.
Versus the complete opposite in work, in that I just want to be hands-on, knee-deep in any decisions that impact my my part of the organisation or nationwide in general.
Yeah.
But I do feel like being organised, like I'm a bit of a stickler for a list. And
yeah, I am.
Getting stuff done.
I have a list for a list.
A list for a list. And I'm exactly like that. So it doesn't, what I mean is, it doesn't just fall into place.
No, it doesn't.
It takes quite careful orchestration, really, but it might look easy, but it absolutely isn't.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've got 3 kids as well.
Yeah.
I think having 3 children, you have to be organised, don't you? You can't not be. So I think that does come into work with
totally does.
As well.
I mean, they have busy social lives. Your kids will be busier than you are, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
So if you're not organised, it'll just be chaos, and I couldn't live like that.
No, I couldn't, absolutely. And it's just good for them as well.
Yeah, it is. This sort of idea that it runs like clockwork, you're kidding yourself, but as long as it can be as near to that, I'm all right with.
Absolutely the same. And what would you say is next for you?
Well, there's plenty going on at work. So job-wise, Nationwide just acquired Virgin Money. So that's now brought with it a whole new set of sort of challenges for this organisation, and how do the two come together. So that's really exciting. I mean, it's going to be over multi-years, but that's brilliant. And I've talked about the student loan company.
Which only happened last year, wasn't it?
That was last October. So I feel like I'm in a different phase anyway. Yeah. So that's good, actually. But also, family-wise, I'm conscious of my eldest son is working. My youngest son is due to finish his degree this year, so he'll graduate. And Megan is back to America where she plays football. She's got a football scholarship, so she's back to South Carolina in October. So I'm sort of trying to strike a balance between their lives are changing, my life is changing.
Absolutely.
And my age starts now with a 5.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be more of the same for short term.
Yeah.
And I'm all right with that because I'm, feel like there's plenty to keep me out of trouble.
There's enough going on. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You won't be bored.
No, I definitely will not.
Fabulous. And then just the final question is, my daughter Poppy is 14. She's just about to choose her options at school for exams. Any advice that you'd give to her?
Who'd be 14 again?
Yeah.
The advice I would give to Poppy would be, social media is a blessing and a curse, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I would say to her, don't believe everything you see. Because I would imagine that being 14 versus when I was 14 is all you saw was, real people all the time. What they're seeing now is this sort of idea that images can be fantasized, women look perfect, trying to sort of conform to a particular type. And I genuinely would say to her, try your best to moderate all of that, the good and the not so good, because just be who you are.
Yeah.
And she will with a mum like you. She's going to be very lucky. But do you understand what I mean? The pressure.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That must bring with
it. Yeah, definitely.
By being on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And I think that must be added additional pressure at a time when she just needs to be getting her head down and getting through her education.
Definitely.
So that sort of sense of remove some of the noise and distraction would be the advice I'd give her, and say just be true to who you are.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I do think that's an important message for kids nowadays, because
definitely,
they can see shadows that might not be there.
Absolutely. And I'm very fortunate. She's very close and she's quite open. And I always say to her, just talk to me.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes,
what's going on?
Yeah. And I might not like to hear what you say, but just tell me and we can figure it out.
Well, you'd rather know, wouldn't you?
Oh, 100%.
Whether you like it is different, but you'd much rather know.
I say that.
And I just think, when I think about the pressure that can come with, I'm 50 and can sort of be sucked into this idea that women can look 25 at 50. You can't.
Yeah, no.
You're 50,
absolutely.
so stop pretending to be or trying to be something you're not.
Definitely.
But I can't imagine. I've lived in a time where that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So, there's a bit of muscle memory, but they haven't.
Yeah.
And that's their reality now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So trying to just manage that is the message I'd be giving. And your point is absolutely spot on. Just the lines of communication all the time.
Definitely.
Because are they talking to you? Are they telling you what they're thinking? Is everything at school as good as you think it is, and so on.
Definitely.
So that would be the advice I'd give to Poppy, and say work really hard at your exams.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for asking.
I know, brilliant. Honestly, I could listen to it all day, man. Honestly, it's so inspiring.